It began on a quiet Sunday morning when the world outside felt alive with birdsong and sunlight, but inside her small room it felt heavy and still, like time itself had stopped. Clara lay in her bed staring at the pale ceiling above her, her body frail and weak, her once bright eyes now dulled by months of illness that had stolen the strength from her bones and the will from her heart. She had been strong once, vibrant, full of life, a woman who would dance barefoot in the rain and laugh loudly in crowded rooms, but the sickness crept in slowly like a thief and took more than just her health. It took her independence, her career, her friendships, even her sense of purpose, leaving only her and her loyal golden retriever, Daisy, in that dimly lit room day after day. Daisy never left her side, not even for a moment. When Clara's hands trembled too much to hold a cup, Daisy nudged it closer. When Clara cried silently into her pillow at night thinking no one could hear, Daisy rested her head gently on Clara's chest as if to say, "I hear you." But lately even Daisy's presence wasn't enough to lift the deep sadness settling over Clara's heart. The doctors had been kind but honest. They told her the treatments had failed, that her body was too tired to keep fighting, that she had to prepare herself for the inevitable. Clara didn't feel angry anymore. She just felt empty, like her soul was slowly fading before her body did. That morning she whispered to Daisy with tears streaming down her face, "I can't do this anymore. I don't have the strength to get up. I just want it to be over." Daisy tilted her head, her warm brown eyes soft but alert as if she understood every word. For a long moment the dog just stood there watching Clara like she was thinking. Then without warning Daisy left the room. Clara frowned because Daisy never left her. She tried to call out but her voice was too weak. Minutes passed and the silence in the house felt louder than ever until Clara heard faint scratching in the hallway. Slowly Daisy returned carrying something in her mouth. At first Clara couldn't see what it was, only that it was small and dusty, something old and delicate. Daisy carefully climbed onto the bed and placed it gently on Clara's lap. Clara blinked. It was an envelope, yellowed with age, tied with a thin faded ribbon. Her shaking fingers reached for it, confused and hesitant. The envelope smelled faintly of lavender, a scent she hadn't smelled in years, a scent that unlocked something buried deep in her memory. She untied the ribbon and opened it slowly, and when she unfolded the paper inside, her eyes filled with fresh tears. It was a handwritten letter in her mother's familiar cursive. A letter she hadn't seen since she was a child. Her mother had passed away when Clara was only 8, leaving her with only fragments of memory and an aching longing for the love she lost. The letter was short but powerful. It said, "My dearest Clara, no matter what happens in life, remember that love is stronger than pain and hope is stronger than fear. You are my light. Never forget that you were born to shine." Clara's breath caught in her throat as the words echoed through her entire being. She looked at Daisy, who sat patiently beside her, tail wagging ever so slightly as if she knew exactly what she had done. Clara whispered, "Where did you find this?" But Daisy just rested her paw gently on Clara's hand, her eyes full of silent understanding. At that moment Clara felt something she hadn't felt in months, a spark. Not a full flame, but a flicker of something alive. She turned the letter over and saw something scribbled on the back that made her heart skip. It was a small drawing of a garden with a note that read, "If you ever need strength, go to the place with the roses. I'll be waiting." Clara had almost forgotten about her mother's old garden at the edge of town, a place she hadn't visited in decades. Suddenly the thought of lying in bed forever felt unbearable. For the first time in so long, Clara wanted to know more. She wanted to see what else Daisy would find. Clara couldn't stop staring at the letter as if holding it in her trembling hands somehow bridged the decades that separated her from her mother's voice. The same voice that used to sing her to sleep on stormy nights. The same voice that whispered, "You are my light," when the world felt too big for a little girl. Daisy sat at the foot of the bed watching her every move, her head tilted slightly as if waiting for Clara to understand the meaning behind what she had brought. Clara blinked back tears and touched the faded drawing of the garden, the one with roses her mother had loved so dearly, the same garden her father had locked up after her passing, because he said it hurt too much to see it without her. Clara hadn't been back there since the funeral. and over the years she convinced herself it had withered away like so many other forgotten pieces of her past. But now the thought of it came rushing back, vibrant and alive. As if the letter had opened a door to something unfinished. Daisy stood suddenly and walked toward the door, pausing to glance back with a soft bark that sounded like an invitation. Clara shook her head weakly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't. Daisy, I can't even stand." But Daisy barked again, louder this time, and then ran toward the hallway as if urging her to follow. Clara sat frozen, torn between exhaustion and the strange feeling blooming in her chest. Something about the way Daisy moved wasn't random. It was deliberate, purposeful. As if the dog knew something she didn't. She looked at the letter again. Her mother's handwriting whispering in her mind, "If you ever need strength, go to the place with the roses." Clara took a deep breath, the first deep breath in months, and with effort she pushed the covers aside. Her legs were shaky, thin from weeks of lying in bed, but the desire to see what Daisy was leading her toward was stronger than the weakness in her bones. She grabbed the edge of the nightstand for support and slowly stood, gasping softly from the effort, her knees threatening to give way. Daisy came back and nudged her leg gently, then stood beside her as if offering herself as a guide. Step by slow step, Clara followed the golden retriever down the hallway, every inch of progress feeling like an impossible miracle. By the time they reached the front door, Clara was trembling, her vision blurred from exhaustion and tears. But Daisy stayed steady, patient, her warm presence a silent encouragement. Clara looked outside. It was late afternoon, the sky painted in soft hues of gold and lavender, and the air smelled faintly of spring. Daisy barked once more and trotted toward the path leading to the street. Clara hesitated. "I can't walk that far," she whispered to no one in particular, but then she saw something she couldn't explain. In the distance, at the end of the driveway, there was a single rose lying on the ground. Fresh. Perfect. A deep red that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Her heart skipped. How could it be there? No one in the neighborhood grew roses anymore. Clara blinked, and sure if her eyes were playing tricks on her, Daisy ran to the rose, picked it up gently in her mouth, and returned to place it at Clara's feet. Clara bent down slowly, her thin fingers brushing the soft petals, and a wave of warmth washed over her. It was the same kind of rose her mother used to plant in the garden, the same deep crimson called forever love. Clara's chest tightened with emotion. It couldn't be a coincidence. With new determination flickering inside her, Clara whispered, "Okay, Daisy. Let's go." She found her old cane leaning by the door, and used for months, and stepped outside for the first time in what felt like forever. The fresh air filled her lungs, cool and crisp, making her feel more alive than she had in weeks. Daisy walked ahead but never too far, glancing back every few steps to ensure Clara was following. They walked down the quiet street, one slow step after another, until they reached the edge of town where the old iron gate of her childhood home's garden still stood, rested but standing strong. Clara gasped when she saw it because beyond the gate, through the tangled vines and wild grass, the roses were still there, not dead, not gone, but blooming wildly as if they had been waiting all this time. She reached for the gate with trembling hands and pushed it open. Daisy slipped inside first, then waited for Clara to step in. The air smelled sweet with the faint perfume of roses, and in that moment Clara felt something stir deep inside her soul. She walked deeper into the garden, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. And there at the center beneath the old oak tree was something she never expected. A small wooden box half buried under leaves and petals. Daisy ran to it and pawed at the ground as if she had known it was there all along. Clara crouched down, her knees aching but her curiosity overpowering her pain, and brushed the leaves away. The box was old but intact, with her mother's initials carved into the top. Clara's breath caught. With shaky hands she opened it, and inside was another letter along with a delicate silver locket that glimmered in the fading sunlight. She unfolded the letter slowly, her eyes already brimming with tears before she even read the words. Clara held the fragile paper as if it might dissolve in her hands, her breath uneven as her eyes scanned the words written in the same elegant handwriting she remembered from childhood. The handwriting that had left notes in her lunchbox and written bedtime stories in the margins of her favorite books. My dearest Clara, it began, if you are reading this, it means life has taken you to a place of darkness, but I need you to know something important. Strength doesn't leave us. It only hides until love reminds it to return. If the roses are still blooming, it's because I planted them for more than beauty. They were planted with hope, for you, for the days you would need to remember that no matter how weak you feel, you have always been my light. Clara's tears fell silently onto the page, smudging the ink slightly but not enough to erase the meaning. She opened the silver locket and inside was a tiny photo of herself as a baby nestled in her mother's arms, both of them smiling like the world was perfect. Next to the photo was a folded piece of paper so small she almost missed it. She gently unfolded it and found a single pressed rose petal along with more words. You are stronger than anything that has tried to break you. When you feel too tired to move, follow your heart, and it will lead you home. Clara closed her eyes, her whole body shaking as she realized this wasn't just her mother speaking from the past. It felt like her mother's love was reaching through time, lifting her, filling her with a quiet but unstoppable power. Daisy sat patiently beside her, tail gently brushing the petals on the ground, watching with eyes that seemed to understand. Clara whispered through her tears, "Did you know this was here? Did you bring me to her?" Daisy let out a soft whine and nudged Clara's hand with her nose, and in that moment Clara felt a connection between the dog and her mother. Like Daisy was more than just a companion. She was a messenger of something beyond words. Clara slowly stood up, feeling an energy in her legs she hadn't felt in months. It wasn't sudden or miraculous like in the movies, it was subtle but real. She could move because something inside her wanted to move again. She walked deeper into the garden, her steps slow but steady, touching each blooming rose as if each one held a memory. She saw the small bench her mother used to sit on when she read stories aloud, and as she sat down it was like being wrapped in warmth that no illness could take away. Daisy hopped up beside the bench and rested her head on Clara's lap. Clara closed her eyes and for the first time in so long, she felt calm. Not the fragile calm of surrender but the strong calm of knowing she still had more to live for. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Clara whispered softly, "Thank you, Mama." "Thank you, Daisy." The soft evening breeze carried the scent of roses, and Clara could almost swear she heard her mother's voice in the wind saying, "See, my love, you were never alone." She stayed in the garden for hours, letting the memories wash over her like waves she no longer had to resist. By the time she returned home, she didn't crawl back into bed. She sat in the kitchen with a cup of warm tea, her body still weak but her spirit completely awake. Over the next few days Clara found herself walking a little more each morning. She would visit the garden daily, tending to the roses, reading and rereading the letters her mother had left behind, feeling like each word was a piece of the puzzle that made her whole again. Daisy was with her every step of the way, never leaving her side, her gentle presence a constant reminder that love always finds a way to reach us when we need it most. And then, one morning, something extraordinary happened. Clara woke up without the heavy ache that had been her constant companion for months. She sat up, feeling light, feeling capable, feeling like her body and soul were finally in harmony. She stood without the cane, without effort. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, she smiled not because she wanted to be brave but because she truly felt alive again. Daisy wagged her tail and barked joyfully, spinning in circles like she already knew what this day meant. Clara knelt beside her and hugged her tightly, whispering, "You brought me back, you saved me in ways no one else could." Clara stood in the garden that morning, breathing in the crisp air as the sunlight spilled across the roses like a soft golden promise. Daisy trotted ahead and stopped near a section of the garden Clara had never truly noticed before. It was tucked behind an archway of vines, almost hidden. Clara followed, curiosity guiding her steps, her legs steady with a strength that felt new but also familiar, like it had been waiting all along. Daisy pawed gently at the earth beneath an old stone marker covered in moss. Clara crouched down, brushing the moss away with her fingers until words emerged carved into the stone in her mother's handwriting. "For the day you feel lost, here you will be found." Clara's breath caught in her throat. She pressed her palm against the cool stone and felt something beneath it, a hollow sound. She carefully lifted the stone, revealing a small wooden box wrapped in a silk cloth faded with time. Hands trembling, she unwrapped it and found another letter, sealed with the same rose-shaped wax emblem her mother used on all her most special notes. As Clara opened it, her vision blurred with tears. My Clara, if this moment finds you, it means you've walked through shadows far darker than I could have ever protected you from. But listen to me now. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to open your eyes again, to step outside, to breathe, even when it feels impossible. And when you do, love will meet you there. That's why Daisy is with you. She was meant to guide you, to bring you here, to remind you that you are never truly alone, no matter how heavy the world feels. I chose her for you long ago, Clara gasped softly. Realizing what this meant, her mother had known, somehow, before passing. She had arranged for Daisy to come into Clara's life. Daisy hadn't been an accident or a coincidence. She was a final gift, a living piece of her mother's love. Clara fell to her knees, hugging Daisy tightly as fresh tears streamed down her face. Not of sorrow but of overwhelming gratitude. She whispered into the soft fur. You were always meant for me. In that moment, something shifted deep within her. All the pain that had kept her trapped in bed for so long began to dissolve. Replaced with a radiant sense of purpose, Clara realized she wanted to live again. Not just for herself but to honor the love that had reached her from beyond time. She started tending the garden with a devotion she had never felt before, watering the roses daily, planting new ones, creating a space filled with life and hope. And with each passing day her body grew stronger. She began taking short walks through the neighborhood, smiling at neighbors who had once only seen her through her bedroom window. Word spread slowly about the woman who had been so sick she couldn't move, yet somehow found her way back because of her dog's quiet and wavering loyalty. Soon people began visiting Clara's garden, sitting among the roses and leaving small notes of their own messages of hope, grief, healing. Clara realized the garden was no longer just hers or her mother's. It had become a place for everyone who needed a reminder that love has no limits, and Daisy, always by her side, welcomed each visitor with gentle eyes that seemed to say, "You are safe here." Months later, Clara hosted a small gathering in the garden. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers came, all drawn by the story of the dog who wouldn't give up. Clara stood beneath the archway of vines and spoke, her voice clear and strong. I thought I had nothing left. I thought I was too weak to keep going. But love found me anyway. It found me through my mother's words and through Daisy, who never left my side. And now I know that no matter how far we fall, love will always reach for us. As she spoke, Daisy sat at her feet, tail wagging softly, her gaze fixed on Clara like she understood every word. And when the crowd applauded and the wind carried the sweet scent of roses through the air, Clara looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mama. I'm living again, because of you." In that moment the garden bloomed brighter than it ever had before, and for the first time in years, Clara didn't just feel alive. She felt whole.